of the raised water table over a water wall of naturally split granite. At this southern edge, a new water source creates a cascade of water that flows down the wall into the sunken garden, terminating in a raised splash pool. More slabs of granite rest in the bottom of the pool. Then it talks about a 4-story interior glass staircase in all glass and stainless stair placed in the interior vertical light wells, connects levels 2 through 6 that allow increased circulation while allowing daylight into the interior. It's nearly embarrassing as I read through this stuff, and that's about the oversight we have with you, is to just raise these issues. Do you think that kind of spending is really reasonably necessary to carry out your functions on a building that is a lease building? Would you make the case to us today that that's reasonably necessary?
So if I may, several things in your discussion I'd like to address. First of all, this has been out there and taken as gospel in the public record for some time. It's a fiction of the Washington Examiners that this project started out at $55 million and now has ballooned to higher proportions. There was never any expectation that this project could be completed for $55 million. That is false. What happened was, in the first budget where we put anything in as a partial payment on the ultimate project, $55 million was listed in that year's budget. That was never considered to be. The notion this is tripled in cost is just a fiction by the Washington Examiner. That's all it is. In fact, there was a review done of this building prior to the CFPB being created, when it was the OTS building, which is what it was, in which they anticipated that even at that point in time, baseline needs of the building, such as the HVAC system, electrical problems, and other things, were going to require at least triple figures worth of construction work, and that didn't include a lot of the contingencies that go along with a project like this. As to the description you described, I find it embarrassing. It's the kind of flowery statements that someone will make when they're trolling for a bid, trying to get the business and trying to make it sound as wonderful as they can. Much of the flowery words there do not reflect any particular cost. I would say that you could say the same thing about many of the staircases and outer areas around the Capitol here. There's nothing special about this in respect to other government buildings, and it is not a very special government building. It is actually a building that needs a great deal of work. I wish it didn't. I'd rather not spend a single penny on that. As you say, we don't own the building, so the notion we're trying to create some palace that we don't even own doesn't even make any sense to me. But we worked out with the OCC.
We're out of time, and I don't want to impose upon the chairman's patience here.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be willing to give us a thorough accounting of what's being spent and on what on this building?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Happy
Thank
to
you,
do
Mr.
that.
Chairman.
Yes.
On television, I wanted to follow up a little bit with the line of questioning that Senator Johans had. When you were here last, I asked you about this building.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the quote was the estimated cost to renovate was $95 million at that time. That's your testimony back then. And now the estimated total cost for the CFPB headquarters renovation is $185 million. So first thing is, how many square feet?
I can't give you exactly what the square footage is, but what I know is that the building is problematic. We're having to actually move out of it so it can be renovated.
I understand that, but you don't know how many square feet. So you don't know whether $185 million is a good value for the American taxpayers or not, based on a per square foot calculation of renovation costs.
I know that we've been through these numbers, and it is I believe it is an appropriate value. It is something that was taken account of in the lease that we negotiated with the OCC, so that our lease payments were less over the 30 years, to take account of the fact that we, not the landlord, would be making the improvements on the building. It is a building that would be a white elephant if this work is not done, and it is a government asset owned by the Treasury and the OCC. It is also a building that when we finish with it will be populated more densely than it had been before, so we're going to be efficient about that.
That's a great sales job, Administrator, but the point is, we're $17 trillion in debt. And when you hear, regardless of the flowery nature of what Senator Johans read to you, the fact is this is going to be opulent.
It will not be opulent.
Well, if you have any of those waterfalls, any of that stuff, that's the kind of stuff we can't afford right now in this country.
Look,
Because we're running a $600 billion a year deficit, the very thing you're trying to help people with in terms of fairness, in terms of their consumer being treated fairly, we're going to take back from them in terms of excess costs because we don't run things on a tight ship. So my point being to you is, the structural renovation is $139 million, the temporary lease is $22 million. The securities, utilities, and other expense at the temporary space for 3 years is $13.6 million. The cost of architectural engineering design contract was $9.2 million. That does not include the IT, the parent shuttle service that's going to run back and forth. I mean, so there's a lot of costs in this. And I'm not saying what you did was wrong. I'm just saying we're buying top dollar design and construction at a time that we don't have the money to pay for it. Now, you have an unlimited budget, and as Senator Johans made the point, we don't get any chance to oversight. I mean, we don't get any, and the fact is who with you has the experience outside of Washington of doing a rehab on a building? Who works for you that actually has private world experience in rehabbing buildings?
so first of all, I would like to invite you and your staff to come take a tour of that building that we're now going to be out of.
I'm not saying that it's not.
It's a dump. It is not opulent, and it will not be opulent when it's finished either.
I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done. One of my statements is it probably does need to be done. The question is can it be done for less? Can it be done under the realization that this country's in trouble financially? Mm-hmm. And are we spending money that we have to spend, or could we spend less money? That's my only question.
That's fair enough, and I'm responsible to you on that, and this is meaningful oversight that you have with me. We also now are briefing the Appropriations Subcommittee on these types of issues, both in the House and the Senate. That's something I agreed to as I was confirmed by the Senate, and I take this seriously. We also do not have an unlimited budget. We have a budget cap each year, and our spending has to come out of there. We have no capital budget, and so every dollar that we spend on something like this is a dollar taken away from other work that we're doing, and I'm feeling that and wanting to spend as little as possible on this. So I will be happy to continue to keep you and your staff closely apprised. I know you care about these issues. We've talked about them.
I just have a few seconds left. Yeah. Who is the expert on your side, on your staff, that has the knowledge to make the decisions about a construction project like this, and what is their experience outside of doing it for the government?
Okay, so we have people in the agency that are working on this that are in charge of facilities, and we also have brought GSA in because they are the expert in the federal government on all of these types of projects. That's why we brought them in, so that I could feel comfortable.
But you don't have anybody on staff that has outside knowledge and outside experience to run a $180 million construction project.
I don't know that I would agree with that, but at the same time, that's part of why we brought GSA in.
So will you answer for the
have.
record who on your staff and what their experience is in terms of making the decisions about this project?
So I'd be happy to have you or your staff meet with our facilities group and others, and also meet with the folks from GSA who are working with us on this. We brought them in specifically because I share your concerns about this. And every dollar spent on this is a dollar away from other work that
I would just tell you, I'm not real satisfied with the work GSA does on this. We're getting ready to build a 190,000 square foot VA facility in Muskogee that ultimately we could own for about a third of the cost that we're going to pay through rents. Plus, we have a 4% rider in the lease that we've negotiated. GSA has negotiated a 4% rider on the lease, plus a $9 million or $8 million design and construction budget for a facility. Now it's going to be 3 times the size it was now, and we have a 5% increase in veterans expected over the next 20 years in Tulsa. So the point is GSA isn't really great at this either.
I don't really know about.
I know, but you're relying on experts.
But I'll tell you, if you have other suggestions for us, I'm all ears. I don't want to spend more money than we need to either.
The deal's done, isn't it?
If you have further suggestions,
yeah,
talk to us.
I'll give you this suggestion. go to the outside of Washington, go into the middle of the country, and find people like Manhattan Construction that knows how to do this for a whole lot less money, that can design and build it that's adequate and built well, and do it in a way that says we don't have an extra penny to spend. Now, how can we do? How can we get what we need for the least amount of money? And that doesn't happen at the GSA, and that doesn't happen in most government agencies. And you ought to set the example given the position that you're in.
Okay, happy to talk with you further about that. And I know it's a concern for you. We've talked about it before.
Senator